Welcome again, everyone. My name is Misha Perozak, and I'm with the Scarborough Junction community. Thank you so much for coming today. It's really important, and we appreciate your support. So today is about the West Scarborough Rail Trail, and trying to figure out how we can make that happen. What's going to happen today is we'll do a land acknowledgement. We'll have a couple of brief greetings from a couple of guests, and then we'll have some speakers, kind of a panel discussion, question and answer, and we have a mural going on the side here. Before you leave, please, you could write down your support on there. You could write an idea or something you'd like to see, an off-leash dog park or a pollinator garden or a native tree planting or whatever, or a solution to an issue. You can do that. So I'm going to follow my script here. And again, we have all our social media QR codes and such at the back. And if you want to volunteer, you can put your name, email, and your expertise, and we will contact you. So I'd like to begin the meeting with a land acknowledgement. So we acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Charrette, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse nations, Inuit, Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Charrette. And we'll touch again on Indigenous connections later on. Is Charlie here from Councillor Nathan Shan's office? Is there Charlie here? Do you want to come up quickly and do a quick reading on behalf of Councillor Chan? Sorry, your last name, Charlie?
Fairbank.
Charlie Fairbank, all right.
It's a very short message. Councillor Shan sends his regrets that he can't be here today. I'm here on his behalf, and anyone's more than welcome to follow up. We're glad to be here because I know it's a project that's very been passionate with the community, and yeah, I guess that's it.
Good. And you're from Rouge, so you're right up by the Rouge National Park, that ward, and that's where we want to get to from here on a bike or walking and not on a road.
Exactly. If anyone wants to speak with me after, then I can relay that to the councillor.
Yeah, good. Okay, our next greeting is coming from Dolly Begum, who has been a voice for Scarborough Southwest in the Ontario Legislature for nearly 8 years, fighting for better transit, affordable childcare, and housing. Now she's stepping up to serve our community as the Liberal candidate in the upcoming by-election. Please welcome Dolly.
Thank you very much. Can we give a big round of applause for Misha? He's been fighting for this for, I think, almost now, I don't know how many years, maybe 6, 7 years or longer, and 11 years, okay, that's amazing. And so Misha, thank you very much for everything you do. I think it was around 8, 9 years ago when they were doing a cleanup, and I showed up to help with the cleanup, and that's when I first met and I realized how dedicated he was and the whole group. And of course, all of you who have been really dedicated and invested so much time and effort to get this project going. Usually I would come to the meeting, listen, and see how I can help as an MPP. There weren't a lot of, in terms of jurisdictional ways we can support, because it just wasn't something that the provincial jurisdiction touched. But when he reached out, and I was, now that I'm stepping up and hopefully with all of your support, with support from Scarborough Southwest, I can be the representative at the federal level. There are federal components to this, so I'm really excited. And of course, I know how important it is for families, for seniors, for friends across our community to be able to have that path. I've seen the hard work, and I also know there are different parts of it where all of us need to be at the table, the municipal, the hydro operator folks, and of course the federal, the rail, and I know you're here to present as well from RT. From Scarborough RT. Yeah, so there are different components where we all need to come together to the table to make sure that this gets done, and you have my full commitment to make sure that I'm engaged and I take this issue to Ottawa if I'm elected, and of course throughout the process I hope to keep you updated and do anything I can to support. So thank you very, very much. I'm really excited. Election hasn't been called yet. When there is an election, hopefully in the next couple of days, I will let you know, and I hope I can count on your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dolly. I know it was a last-minute thing, and I'm glad you could be with us. And I know you have other engagements, and hopefully you can see a few of the slides. So I'm going to kind of, you know those old cartoons, Warner Brothers, with an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other. Well, for this first presentation, you're getting Misha with the angel on his shoulder, all the great things about the trail. So I'm going to go through this pretty quickly, just so you get an overview, because I'm going to try and stick to my 5-minute limit for talks for everyone. Okay. Oh yes. So imagine a 25-kilometer off-street pedestrian and cycle trail from Lake Ontario to Rouge National Park. And here it is visualized. So the green line represents already existing trails, and the red line is the missing link of the WSRT. Are there some issues, connection issues along the way? Yes, but for the most part, that trail, those green trails are there, and we just need to connect them. So imagine a 100-kilometer continuous off-street pedestrian and cycle trail network connecting local neighborhoods and the entire city of Toronto. And this is the best I could do. I know it looks like a pipe or a toilet maybe, but it's the two trails, the Meadowway, the Don Valley, and the Loop Trail that will be spoken about later on. So, and that would be 100 kilometers of trail linking the whole city, off-street. This is the Meadowway Trail. The broad yellow line represents the Meadowway Trail, and the pink line, the Kennedy Hydro Corridor that already exists. The red line shows the proposed SRT renewal trail, and the blue line, the WSRT. These trails would give tens of thousands of people off-street access to the Meadowway. And you can see how the RT Trail and the West Scarborough Rail Trail are connecting north and south and giving thousands of people more access. So this is the Loop Trail. Again, Albert will be speaking about this later. From my understanding, it's a 72-kilometer trail that rings the city, and there's just 5 kilometers of links missing in that. And the pink circle on the right with the arrow is one of the connection points to Taylor Massey Creek and then up to us. So imagine that 90% of this trail system already exists and only requires filling in a few gaps to join the disconnected route, with the biggest 3-kilometer gap being between Warden Station and Kennedy Station. Imagine the West Scarborough Rail Trail. And here's a visual representation. In the bottom left corner, the WSRT starts at Warden Subway Station at Pilkington, runs through the Hydro Transfer Station lands, across the historic Gico Bridge, and follows the old rail bed, Hydro Corridor, and CN Rail line to Kennedy Subway Station, and where it connects to the former RT, which I know the RT people eventually want that for their trail once the buses are done with it, and the Kennedy Hydro Trail that's already there that will take you up to the Meadowway. The history. So for the past 5 years, members of the Scarborough Junction community have been promoting the creation of the WSRT through community meetings, community hikes, and special events. The trail was first proposed over 50 years ago by U of T grad students. As far back as 2005, City Council passed bylaws and recommendations to specifically consider the CN Gico rail line and bridge over St. Clair as a pedestrian bridge. The Wardenwood secondary plan specifically recommends the bridge as a link to lands north and south of St. Clair Avenue, and they're still in there. There was a motion in council in July 2022 by the councillor whose name we do not say, passed in July 2022, inside joke, sorry, to study the use of the Gico Bridge for the WSRT by a former councillor whose name we do not speak. All right, I did that already. Okay, so now we get to more present times. Through Councillor Candeval and his office, Infrastructure and Environment Committee Chair Jennifer McKelvey passed a request for a feasibility study. We had to pull teeth to eventually get that and the requisite community meeting, but Councillor's office got that for us from Transportation finally. And then there's the motion without notice, December 17th, moved by Councillor Candoval and granted a stay for the WSRT and requested additional design and costing studies. And I'm sure he'll talk about that later when he speaks. So the mission statement for our group is to create the WSRT, and its goals are to secure the GPO Bridge and rail line and the 500-meter section of CN rail line west of Kennedy Road for the WSRT. Yes, there are other things we need to do, but they're smaller. These are the two big pieces that we're focusing on. So the connections. There's many connections will be created by the WSRT. Ravine connections, other rail trail connections, park and recreation connections, neighborhood connections, just in our neighborhood, we connect all these neighborhoods. Historical connections, and we have someone, Barbara, will be speaking about the Bomb Girls and the Jico lands, the bridge, Pioneer Cemetery with gravestones going back hundreds of years, and the Sisters of Providence. There's tons of historical ones, commercial ones, La Bastille French Bakery, who provided the great French pastries today, and other great businesses, and indigenous connections. Taylor-Massey Creek has been used for over 10,000 years by Native people for travel, for living, for hunting and fishing. And recently there was a project, the Wigwasekara, I'm sure I blundered that, which was a kind of a camp there that was trying to restore the indigenous presence and stewardship in the Taylor-Massey Creek Valley. It's been supported by Mayor Chow, who's walked the bridge. Look, we have, or walked the trail. We have video, or picture, photo evidence. Okay, I had to change the slideshow, put a bunch of formers in here now. Former MP Bill Blair, former MPP Dolly Begum. Yep, she's been on the trail. She was speaking the truth. Councillor Josh Matlow, who I see has just arrived, and all these supportive community partners. We want to grow this list, of course. And so imagine. Sorry?
Where's my picture?
Yeah, sure.
I do the work.
Wait a second. Yes, we've got a picture of you.
Okay.
That's my bad. But you know why it's not? You're here live. That's all we care about. And you're the star of this show anyway. No, we have a picture of you. I saved your picture for the end. Yes, Councillor Candoval has been on the trail numerous times with us. Numerous times. And so imagine the recreation, environmental connectivity, active transportation, economic and tourism benefits of a trail system connecting the entire city. Imagine the West Scarborough Rail Trail. And that's that bit. So that's a very quick overview of the current situation. And how am I doing? I'm right on time. All right. So our next speaker, Albert Cole, is the author of Wheeling Through Toronto, A History of the Bicycle and Its Riders. Albert's legal career spans over 30 years as a prosecutor with the Ministry of Environment, an investigator with the United Nations in Guatemala, an adjunct professor at Osgoode Hall Law School. Today he dedicates his time to issues of road safety, cycling, and climate change as executive director of the not-for-profit Community Bikeways. Give it up for Albert.
Thanks very much. I'm going to focus on a specific theme, and that's connections. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is connecting the current initiative to a bit of Scarborough history. The second thing is, and Misha mentioned this, connecting the Loop Trail to this Scarborough Trail as a city building project. And thirdly, I'm going to talk about why this is an opportunity to get all of these things done. And some of you will know the answer to that. It's two words I'll leave you with later on. So first, in terms of connecting the current initiative. So 1971, I'll take you back to 1971. What was happening then? The environmental awareness was growing. There was a fitness boom. Anyone remember Prime Minister Trudeau, the first one, doing backflips into his pool? And connecting those things was, of course, the bicycle revival. Not for children. Children kept cycling, but the bicycle revival for adults. So here in Scarborough, at the U of T Scarborough campus, some students set up a chapter of Pollution Probe. which was then a fledgling environmental group. And they got this astronomical amount of $70,000 to do their work. One of their initiative was called the Scarborough Bicycle Pathway System. And one of the key elements of that is they wanted to, what they proposed is a connection from Warden Station to the zoo, which is in Rouge National Park. That's 1971. So they went to the Scarborough Board of Control. They had met with the Hydro Authority, got permission to use the part of the Gatineau Trail. And they had done a lot of the planning and drawings for this. Went to Scarborough Board of Control, very excited about doing this. Remember, they're students in their early 20s. The Scarborough Board of Control said to them, well, we don't really want to lose the revenues, tax revenues from the Hydro Authority. And what if people from outside of Scarborough use this path? Because that was one of their preoccupations. And so the result of that is they said, you got to start small, right? So they said, what we can do, we can give you a permission to build a trail in the Birkdale Ravine. So some of you probably know where the Birkdale Ravine is. So they got permission to do that, not just to plan it, to actually build it. So there, one fellow had a backhoe, he borrowed a backhoe, they did the drawings, they actually built a trail from Ellesmere that ran diagonally from Ellesmere down to Brimley, and today that connects into Thompson Park. Subsequently then, I mean, all of this was kind of in the context of, you had the bicycle revival, but one thing you didn't have, where are cyclists going to ride, right? So Metro came up with a plan for 400 kilometers of bike trails, bike paths. And part of that was they wanted to get cyclists off of the roads, but they had this plan for 400 kilometers of bike trails, and they approved 125 kilometers to be done by 1980. Well, they got about 80 kilometers done, and they sort of lost interest then. And so we're back here now with this initiative, 55 years later, trying to get this done. So the second connection I want to talk about is, as community bikeways, one of the campaigns we've launched is called the Loop Trail. And this is actually something that Mayor Tory had talked about, Mayor Chow has talked about. And this is 73 kilometers, and but for small gaps, this loop could take you along the waterfront, up the Humber River, across the Finch corridor, and then down the Don River. And, as Misha mentioned, could then connect to the Scarborough Trail. So this would be not only good for recreation and tourism, but for utilitarian cycling. So what makes recreational trails into good utilitarian trails are, of course, those connections. So if you look at a map of Toronto bicycle trails, it looks like someone's taken some pieces of spaghetti, throwing it up against the ceiling. We have a bunch of strands, unconnected, but those strands could become valuable utilitarian connections or routes, even for tourism, if they were connected. So as I mentioned, the Loop Trail, but for 10 small gaps, that could be a complete loop. And the same thing that you're talking about here in Scarborough. So why is it a great time right now to work on connecting these disconnected strands that cost a lot of money? Like, bike trails are very expensive. And why are they so expensive? Because they're essentially new infrastructure, as opposed to on-road bike lanes, which really involve reallocating road space. But it's never been about the money, because it's often about the road space. They don't want to give up the road space. So why is this a good time to get all of this done? And the two words are Doug Ford, right? So Doug Ford has passed an edict. He says no more bike lanes on arterial roads if it costs at the cost of a car or truck lane. So that's why it's a great time to do this. And Josh, you'll remember that when Rob Ford was the mayor, what the city came up with was the Trails Implementation Plan, which was 77 kilometers of a bike trail. So it's a good time to get to these connections done. And we're happy to work with Misha and the Scarborough group to get all of this done. We can get all of these things done in a short order of time, but we have to keep pushing, and I congratulate you for being here today to move this initiative along. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Albert. That's excellent. I can tell you're a lawyer. No notes, great in front of a jury and an audience. That was amazing.
Could you just remind us of his name? Sorry.
Albert Cole.
Thank you very much.
Did I pronounce that properly? Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. And our next speakers are Kumsa Baker, who's a community leader in residence at the Institute for Inclusive Economies, and Sustainable Livelihoods based at the University of Toronto, Scarborough. And Rhoda Potter is the president of the Agincourt Village Community Association. Rhoda is a member of the Reimagining the Scarborough RT Community Advisory Committee. So welcome them, please.
Fantastic. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kumsa. I'm glad to be here today to talk a little bit more about the project that I'm supporting, which is about repurposing the Scarborough RT. So I'm the community leader in residence at the Institute for Inclusive Economies and Sustainable Livelihoods, which is based at the University of Toronto, Scarborough. So we're an institute that is a space to explore, imagine, and plan alternative economic futures. We support and promote research. We support place-based efforts. We also support engaged policymakers, secure funding, and also mentor students. So we have a really active goal to really involve students in the projects and the research that we take part in. And one of the projects that we've recently started is repurposing the SRT. Go on to the next slide. So as you know, in 2023, the Scarborough RT was decommissioned, but it also opened it up a new question in terms of, what do we do with this piece of infrastructure? And right now, there are plans to turn a part of the SRT into a future busway. Mayor Chow and council have supported the busway, which is, I think, slated to open up this September. So that's going to be something that's going to be accommodating some additional transportation options for people in Scarborough. But in the long term, especially as the Scarborough subway gets built, this question is going to become ever more important, especially as we know that the current estimates to demolish the SRT infrastructure was estimated at $180 million. So rather than spend $180 million to demolish this infrastructure, is there another alternative that we can utilize, public taxpayer money, but also this vital public infrastructure and corridor for some sort of community use and benefit? Go on to the next slide. So the Institute in 2024, Councillor Jamal Myers put forward a motion for the city to start studying what an alternative repurposing and reuse of the SRT could look like. That was supported by many Scarborough councillors as well as the mayor and city council. So city staff have already started to do that work within the city planning division. At the Institute for Inclusive Economies, we hosted a design charrette at the University of Toronto, Scarborough. And so what we're really hoping to do is utilize the resources of the university, our research capacity, to support community efforts to reimagine what the future of this SRT could look like. And so this design charrette was kind of that first step in terms of getting some of those ideas in terms of what that could be. And my co-presenter, Rhoda, will talk a little bit more about what are some of the ideas that are emerging from our engagement so far. Next slide. We've actually produced a couple of reports that you can also find online. We worked with some design professionals to host the charrette, and we also worked with some students to also give us some inspirations of other examples. There are examples locally here in Toronto, like the Bentway, which are doing some really fantastic work, and also elsewhere, other parts of North America. So we've actually looked into some of these really great case studies. One of the ones is actually called the Joe Louis Greenway in Detroit, which is actually kind of what the loop and kind of what the previous presenter was talking about, where they had many different segments of trails. However, that was not connected. And through leadership from different levels of government and with some funding, they were able to create that sort of loop and connection in the Detroit community. Next slide. So yeah, we've been able to bring together so many fantastic organizations and groups from Scarborough to start getting involved. These are just some of the groups and organizations. I won't go into detail, but these are all the different organizations that have come on as project partners. And I'm really excited to now introduce one of our project partners from the Agincourt Village Community Association, Rhoda Potter, who will talk a little bit more about the project.
Thank you, Kunsa. This is exciting, and it's exciting for Scarborough. It involves connections. What if, instead of spending millions of dollars to dismantle the SRT, it is transformed into a vibrant, an iconic community space that supports local arts and culture, promotes sustainable mobility, offers healthy recreation, and drives inclusive local economic development. This is like a spine in Scarborough. It could connect all of us and connect us to other parts of the city. Community leaders have advocated for this for decades, for a decade now. And in fact, in 2013, when Councillor de Vermaker brought forward a motion to council for the city to consider repurposing the SRT into an elevated park. That didn't go anywhere. We're now 2026. In 2024, Councillor Myers put forward a motion not to tear down the SRT, to the raised portion basically, and to look at what could be done. That is currently being studied. What will it give us? The guiding themes that came out of our charrette are what you see on the screen. Number one, transportation. You know, I know what public transportation is like in Scarborough and what congested roads are like in Scarborough. This provides us with another opportunity for getting around Scarborough, but also to connect with other parts of Toronto. And we can do this through cycling, pushing our strollers, pushing our walkers, riding our bicycles. So transportation is part of it. Economic development. Studies have shown that where this has been done in other cities, the economy thrives, so local businesses have access to this complete long, I think it's 7 kilometers that would run basically from Kennedy Station to Scarborough Town Centre. But along the way, you're going to have places to get on and off. Very good for economic development. Recreation. Let's look at what's happening at Scarborough Town's Civic Center area. Over 70,000 people will eventually be living in that small area. They need a place to go. They need a place to find parkland. Parkland will be very minimal for them. It's another way for them to enjoy the outdoors and to access other places in the city. Community and culture. We are so fortunate in Scarborough. We have many unique neighborhoods that could be connected through doing this and through doing the West Scarborough Rail Trail as well. Those connections could be very important for everyone to know about our neighborhoods, our unique neighborhoods, and our culture. When you look at the thriving, rich culture that we have in Scarborough, it's a way to connect. Lastly, we look at this as an iconic project, something that other people in the city, in the province, around the world, may want to come and enjoy and be able to understand what's really happening in Scarborough. The SRT can enable a connected off-road trail corridor throughout Scarborough, connecting the waterfront trail to the west, connecting to Highland Creek, connecting to the Meadowway, connecting to the future West Scarborough Rail Trail, and go all the way to the Rouge National Urban Park. For those of us in the north, and I live north of the 401, our connection would be the old Midland station near Ellesmere that would connect us to the rest of Toronto and connect us to all these wonderful trails that you've been talking about this morning. The busway between Ellesmere and Kennedy will be open, we hope, in September 2026. The city is currently looking at repurposing the east-west segment of the SRT from Ellesmere to McCowan as part of a future use study. That is key and that's important. How can you get involved? We need you and we need the communities. You can join the Reimagining the Scarborough RT Coalition. That's us. We're a small group working on this, and we will soon have a website up and running for you to learn more about the project. You can depute when the future use study comes to the committee, city committee. You can depute, or you can write a letter to your city councillor and mayor expressing your support to repurpose the SRT. The area is already there. You can sign up for updates at toronto.ca/SRT Future. And especially you can spread the word within your community. We have many community associations that don't know about this yet. It's up to us to spread that word. So if you're having meetings, you're talking with people, start to talk about and point them right now to the direction of the toronto.ca/SRT Future, and soon to our websites that we will have up and running. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rhoda and Susan. I'd like to call up now Josh Matlow, who is the City Councillor for Ward 12, Toronto St. Paul's. From his time as co-director of Earth Roots to his work at City Hall, he's built a reputation as a strong, independent voice for accountability and community advocacy. He's championed better parks and public spaces, affordable housing, childcare, improved transit, safer streets, and vibrant local communities. He's been a consistent supporter of the West Scarborough Rail Trail. He's walked the trail, and he's been to our first WSRT, or one of our first WSRT meetings, engaging with residents to advance their shared vision for this green space and neighborhood. Give it up for Josh. Thanks.
Thank you, Misha. And thank you for inviting me. I want to begin by thanking Misha and the whole crew here at Scarborough Junction for your dogged determinism and stubbornness and passion for doing something that will leave Scarborough better than you found it. And I really admire and respect your. And same goes to all of you, whether you are reimagining the elevated RT corridor, if you're from Sun, Scro, all the organizations in Scarborough who are not allowing the budgets to go by, the decisions to go by, and our city to go by without putting the emphasis and focus and attention on your neighborhoods. I'm here to tell you and share with you why I don't believe you should take no for an answer. Because it's easier to say no than to say yes, especially when there's budgets to consider, when there's attention that needs to be shared, and when there's other, let's say, greasy wheels that are getting all the priorities. So, to begin with, I just want to tell you a personal story. So I live with my family near Yonge and Eglinton. My wife's name is Melissa. My daughter's name is Molly. She's 13 now, but 13, I know, it's crazy. I know. But 13 years ago, my wife and I would go for walks along the Beltline, as we continue to do many mornings these days. And we would just talk about, like, what should we name our baby when she's born? And we'd have these long conversations. We'd fantasize about the journey that we were about to go on with our new daughter. And ever since then, it's been a place that we've gone for walks just to reflect, sometimes to take a deep breath in the middle of our crazy busy lives. And so do our neighbors. It's a place along the Beltline where people go cycling, people go walking, people just connect with friends and family. You run into neighbors. It's this linear park that goes through roughly 9 kilometers through Midtown Toronto. And that wouldn't have happened if in 1972, Kay Gardner and City Council hadn't made a decision, an intentional decision, to invest in the quality of life of residents in Midtown Toronto and protect that trail from being gobbled up by the private adjacent owners of the trail. A trail that had been in existence since the 1890s, when it was, ironically, our transit expansion to create a suburban area in what they used to call the Toronto Highlands in Midtown Toronto. Longer story. And then let's fast forward to 2017, when I, along with a few other advocates in our area, were successfully able to convince city staff to work with us to look at the hydro corridor along DuPont Street and look at roughly 5 kilometers between McPherson and Davenport up to Earl's Court, and find a way, working with parks people and other activists, to kind of put together this complicated puzzle where you've got this hydro corridor where you're not actually allowed to do anything in, officially, legally. You're not allowed to put any permanent things in there. And not only was the line along the, and by the way, it's also along the CP rail corridor, if you can imagine where that is along in the middle of Toronto. And one of our challenges was, well, the property isn't ours. The property is the province's through Hydro One. And then there's also little bits and pieces of this weird little puzzle that are owned by either Toronto Hydro or CP. In other words, it kind of reminded me of like going into like your parent or grandparent's basement and finding all these old like VHS beta cords and all those wires in an old dusty box and trying to figure out what plugs into what. It was really hard to kind of disentangle and figure out how to put it back together in a way that worked. But bit by bit, because we were able to convince staff to work with us and then invest in it and then put parks budgets toward it, we were able to get supportive recommendations that was able to pass through council to be able to create what we are now calling the Green Line. You've heard of it. And the Green Line is now bits and pieces, ad hoc little opportunities of parks that we're putting together. We've now advanced 2 new parks where it's a combination of playgrounds, dog off-leash areas, passive areas, all sorts of creative, gardens, and allotment gardens, a whole bunch of things that are now starting to pop up along the trail, which we will eventually see as a contiguous corridor where people go right through Midtown Toronto, not by car, but walking, cycling. And, as Albert, I think, articulated well, in the midst of this culture war that we have between cars and bikes, and everyone's debating all this, are you pro this, are you anti that, all this stuff, why can't we have places where we all agree on, that are perfect recreational corridors, that don't interfere with anybody else's ability to get around? These should be 100%ers. So why can't we move forward with them? Why can't we get full support, invest in them, and get them done? So I'm happy to tell you, and while you didn't see a photo of him, I want to acknowledge that just to rub it in, Misha.
Don't worry.
I do this on behalf of my friend Parthy, that Councillor Candeval has been actively working on your behalf to move forward with the West Scarborough Residential. And he's been doing all the right things, bringing the motions forward, getting council support, getting the ball rolling. But the ball can only go so far without obviously active support from the mayor and council, and every organization, every division, and yes, the TTC, to work with us to make sure that we clear that path, literally, for a contiguous trail to make sure that it all connects, and work with the TTC to make sure that their interests, while should be acknowledged and validated, should not necessarily conflict with ours. And that's something that we're going to work together on and continue to advance. But I'll conclude by saying, as Misha gets up,
I didn't have to tell him ahead of time.
yeah, that's the hook. I hear the music. That you're going to continue hearing, no, it'll be too expensive to keep the infrastructure on the RT. No, we can't, the TTC needs that storage yard, so you can't go through there. No, we're investing all this stuff into all sorts of other areas of the city, but Scarborough, you gotta wait. And I know you've heard that a lot. You don't need to accept it. You don't need to accept it. Scarborough is literally the greenest area of our city. It deserves to be connected. And by connecting Scarborough, you're connecting Toronto, you're connecting it for all of us. And no matter where we are, from Meadoway to the Don Valley and beyond, we can all be connected, we can all bike, we can all walk, and we can all have a much better quality of life. We're here to support you, And we love you, and let's get this done.
Thanks so much. It's really important, and we're really glad that he came all the way across town for this meeting. We really do appreciate
It would have
that.
been easier if there was a trail from
Yeah, exactly. Well, at least you could have taken the SRT. All right, well, Barbara Dixon is an award-winning Canadian author, historian, and public speaker from Scarborough, Ontario. She's a recipient of the Heritage Toronto Book Award and led the Bomb Girls Banner Project in Toronto. She's got her Bomb Girls display set up back there. Please check it out. And she has some books for sale if you want to pick one of those up. And if I've missed something in your bio, Barbara, let me know. All right, and sure. Sorry, I should have given you a heads up. Okay, just on the picture thing while we have a moment. And this is going to make Parthy look better in the end. So all those other pictures that I have in the slide deck were for people we specifically invited to come out. Well, Parthy wasn't counselor at the time. He was a regular citizen, school trustee, and he just showed up, right? He just showed up on his own volition and not being counselor for the area or anything else. So I have pictures of him in many situations in the group that you'll see. But I didn't have a specific one where I stood beside him and took a picture on the trail because we never invited him, because we never had to. He just showed up. So that is high praise. Am I good now? Are we good now? All right, we're good now. All right, Barbara, you ready? Thank you. All right. She stood up.
Thank you very much, Misha, for the wonderful opportunity of being here this afternoon to share a unique perspective of the Scarborough Rail Trail. So, your name again? Albert. So Albert spoke about connection. So I'm going to speak about commemoration. And I want you to just imagine what Scarborough looked like 100 years from now, 85 years from now. It was basically all just lovely rolling farmland. And during the Second World War, the Canadian government expropriated farmland from 7 farmers in Scarborough to create or establish a top secret World War II munitions factory. And I'm assuming that we're in a Scarborough audience here, so you all know about the GECO lands. You all know about the GECO factory?
My first
Oh,
They kept the secret.
they kept the secret. Oh, okay. So let me share with you. Okay, so way back, a long time ago, once upon a time, during the Second World War, there was a top secret munitions factory right here in Scarborough at Warden and Eglinton. It ran an operation from 1941 to 1945. It employed over 21,000 Canadians. It sat on 346 acres of this beautiful Scarborough farmland. There were 172 buildings at this facility, and they filled just this company or this enterprise, they filled over 250 million rounds of ammunition for the Allied forces. Now, aren't you proud to be Scarbarians now? Exactly. This was a huge undertaking right here in Scarborough. And we should be proud of this, okay? And the actual name of the company was GECO, the General Engineering Company Canada Limited. They were a mining company. They were a private enterprise, and they were hired by the Canadian government to oversee the building of this facility and the operations of it. And like Misha said at the back, I've got, please come and grab a map. I'm going to show you what the map of the facility looked like back during the war in 1942. 172 buildings right there, right here in Scarborough. All connected for the most part by an elaborate above ground walkway system. But underneath, how many of you here know about the 4 kilometers of tunnels? Oh, I like the hands. 4 kilometers of tunnels under Scarborough that are still there today. But you need to know somebody to get into them. So you can all be my best friends now. But I put this slide up because I wanted you to see that there are still 20 original buildings from this facility still standing in 2026. Most of these facilities, they've been torn down. you'll find no remains of any of these plants across Canada. And by the way, probably in every town and city across the nation had plants just like GECO during the Second World War. They're all gone. But Scarborough still has 20 buildings still there, and we need to preserve them because they are such a unique aspect of our Canadian history and our military history. So I wanted to get something straight. There's an urban legend that said that back during the Second World War, at this factory they brought in all the explosives by rail. So that's not true. You were not allowed to transport explosives by rail back in the day. It all had to be brought in by truck. And you see one of the trucks here, they had a massive truck service that ran between the port of Toronto up to the plant, over to the Ajax plant in East Pickering, but you couldn't come by rail. So I wanted to just make sure that you understood that rail was not part of the GECO complex during the war. So where did this GECO rail line come from? So after the war, all the buildings, or most of the buildings that were part of this munitions factory were actually sold either to small-time business owners, returning vets coming from the war. We had low land rates, we had low taxes, and we had over 1 million men returning from the war. So they all set up shop. Huge era of prosperity. You know, you've got the Wexford area, you've got Eglinton Square, you've got all of this new infrastructure being built. And at the GECO complex, they had emergency housing set up in several of the buildings that were part of this complex. Over 2,000 people lived at this complex at any one time. What happened 9 months after the war ended? Do the math, 9 months, okay? Baby boom. So of those 2,000 people that lived at the GECO post-war complex, over half were children. I won't get into all of the shenanigans that happened during those 9 years that there's post-war emergency housing, but let's just say there were a lot of shenanigans. 41 Division of the Police, you know, at Birchmont and Eglinton, why were they there? Because of the post-war housing, okay? Shenanigans, all right? It was actually called the Scarborough slum. It took 9 years to move the last family out, and then the remaining buildings were sold off again to small-time business owners. So as part of the post-war era of prosperity, this is where the spur lines came in to the GECO complex to give all these businesses an opportunity to ship their materials in, to ship all of what the supplies that they needed, and to ship their finished products out through these spur lines. So here's some pictures. I want to shout out to my friend Peter Dediter. He's a locomotive engineer. He's a retired professor at George Brown College, and he understands all of this. He was instrumental in teaching me about the GECO spur lines and where they were located. So here are 3 pictures that Peter, over the years, has supplied to me. But this he also supplied to me, and this is what the spur lines look like. And I think everybody knew about GM at the corner of Eglinton and Warden, the huge GM plant.
Where the Canadian Tire is.
Yeah, exactly. That whole from Vic Park or pharmacy all the way over to Warden, that was all GM. And you can see over here, there's all the spur lines for the GM plant. And this is where they would actually ship in or out completed automobiles and products. I've drawn a line, or a square, is that a square or a rectangle? A rectangle of where the GECO plant is in comparison to where all the spur lines are post-war. And you can see that only one spur line actually came through the old GECO lands. And that was to support post-war industry in our area. But I just wanted you to know that. But that's where the name, the GECO line, that you talked about so much, it's because of this spur line and all the spur lines that came into and around the GECO area And then they all came down. You can see how they came and they joined the CN or the CP rail at the bottom. So for us, it's remembering Scarborough's past. It's a time of celebration and commemoration to remember who was here in Scarborough 100 years ago, what our forebears did for our freedom, and where we are today. And you know, these women, during the war, they did everything, right? They lived with rationing, they had long days at work, they risked their lives handling high explosives. They would go home, they had to take care of their children, they had to shop only on a Saturday afternoon, nothing was open on Sunday. They bore a lot. And they needed to have green space. They needed somewhere to go to relax. Well, this trail is part of, you think it's a continuation of the needs that were met so long ago. And we need to continue to remember our forebears, the women that came before us, and what we're doing today to take care of ourselves and each other. So we've established the Bomb Girls Legacy Foundation. It's a national foundation and it's to commemorate the lives of these amazing bomb girls that worked across the country, not just at the Scarborough plant, although the Scarborough plant was the largest in Canadian history, but these plants were across the country, and it's time that we stood up and we remember what happened here on the home front. And I have to do a shout out to Parthy. Parthy, I am so sorry, but there are no pictures of you in this slide. We had lots of pictures together, but I didn't put any in here because you're right here. And you're my friend, and you have done amazing work for our foundation. And I would like to just give kudos and an applause to Parthy. So remembering Canada's bomb girls and their contribution to our freedom. So we have many initiatives that we have going. We have, please, there's lots of freebies at the back. You can grab a map if you want to have a drive around and see what is still there. There's 20 original buildings. I brought copies of my book if you want to learn more about Scarborough's bomb girls. The book is there. I'd be happy to sign one for you. But I want you to go away. Oh, there you go. Ta-da! There's a new book coming out just in time for Remembrance Day this year. It's called Courage and Grit, The Legacy of Canada's Bomb Girls. And it will feature 90 stories of these amazing women who worked on the home front for our freedom. And it's very exciting because even Barnes & Noble is going to carry it. So we're actually getting into the States. Our local, started out as a local Scarborough story, is now not only nationwide, but it's going into the States, and that's really exciting. So thank you so much.
You're perfect. You're excellent. Yeah, give it up again for Barbara. That was more than I could imagine when I thought with you. So thank you so much.
I got a photo of Parthy. I'll send it to you.
Excellent. So our next speaker is Scarborough local Armin. And I didn't write his name down here. Rashmani, I think. Is currently working as a heritage planner intern for the town of Banff. Armin is an emerging urban planner specializing in land use planning, spatial analysis, and community development. With a postgraduate certificate in sustainable urban and transportation planning, he brings a technical lens to community issues. He lives in the neighborhood. He's online with Zoom, and he had an article in the Scarborough Bluffs Monitor, and that's how we connected. So I'll turn it over to Armin. Okay, we're trying to get him to show up. If not, I have been communicating with him. Is the Zoom still on?
Zoom's still on.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, but he's not that.
Okay. Hi, Armin. We're just got a technical thing. We're trying to get you on the screen, and we're just figuring that out.
That is the Zoom, but the thing is, when I was on my screen, it should be showing up there.
Okay. Can Can you just talk, Armin, for a minute? Are you unmuted on your end? Everything was going so smoothly too. Can we put up the other slide? Yeah. All set on top. Armin, if you can just hang tight for a minute, I'm going to go ahead with my slide thing, and we're going to try and figure out the Zoom, okay? Okay, sorry for the technical difficulties, and we'll move on now. If I can have everyone's attention quickly. So, here are the major trails in Toronto. There are a number of them, you know them, the Bent Line, the Bentway, the Green Line, the Etobicoke Extension, Don Mills Trail. So what do all these trails have in common? They're not in Scarborough. And there's a nice picture of it. There you go. Intense. He's intense. So at the December 17th meeting of Toronto City Council, he asked, where is the rail path in Scarborough? Oh, there we go. And we have a little Instagram of him speaking, and just, I wasn't going to play it, but you know what? Just because he gave me such a hard time. Oh, can we play that? Can we play this video or not? No? Okay, well, we'll just move on. Yeah, but there's a nice video. Check out our Instagram of him speaking there. But the motion to advance the West Scarborough Rail Trail has been approved. And the challenges for the trail are the TTC wants operational control of the historic Gico Bridge and rail line for a pocket track to park 2 empty trains overnight. CN Rail controls 500 meters of rail line west of Kennedy Road that is used once a week at 2 a.m. in the morning. So those are the two major obstacles right now. This gives you an idea of the area and the layout around Warden Subway Station, including key landmarks like Warden Hilltop Community Center, St. Clair Ravine Park, Warden Station, Hydro Station, 683 Condo, where there's going to be 5 buildings, one of which has been upgraded to a 49-story building, and Oates Park. And here's the bridge. This is the famous bridge. And this is the historic Gico Bridge with people, not subway trains on it. And this is what we want to see. So the blue line shows the West Scarborough Rail Trail in the area of Warden Station, and the purple lines are connections just to the local community. So you can see the connections from left to right and top to bottom are St. Clair Ravine Park, Warden Hilltop, Providence Woods, Warden Subway Station, Warden Woods, the Hydro Station lands, Gus Harris Trail, the 683 Warden Condo that I referred to, Oates Park, and then trails going into the neighborhood. So even here, we're connecting to thousands of people and all kinds of infrastructure and products. Over 50,000 new residents are expected in the coming years once the condo bust is over. This is just our little corner. Here's a map. All the little blue dots or blue circles are planned or approved condo buildings, just in our little corner here at Scarborough Junction. So the objections. So this is the conclusion of the City Transportation Feasibility Report from 2024. I will not read it as I deal with each point in the following slides. So the steep slope argument is only relevant if the WSRT does not use the Chico Bridge. Otherwise, there's no issue. The 100 meters or so stretch of rail bed on the second point north of St. Clair is wide enough for a bi-directional cycle path. The corridor, the third issue is the corridor north of St. Clair is owned by Hydro and CN. The city has agreements to use hydro land all over the city. It's standard. There are many precedents for trails near rail lines. The green line that Councillor Matlow has discussed required negotiation with Hydro, Hydro 1, CP, and the City of Toronto. The creek argument is moot. It's not relevant. There's no impact from a trail in the creek there, not any more than the subway train park there would be anyway. And this is just to show for the CN rail part, the fence where the cars are parked. They already lease land to a Toyota dealership, I think, or a Honda dealership to park cars there. So please don't tell me that you don't allow other uses. And this one is a red herring. The mayor herself says setbacks are often exempted. They're saying a 15-meter setback is required from hydro towers. And this picture is from the WSRT, showing the path from Upper Summerside to General Brock Public School that is clearly in violation of the 15-meter setback. And they have lights and electricity and everything there. So, and here, this is one of the slides from the feasibility report from transportation. And if they're saying that the trail violates hydro setbacks, then surely a pocket track and trains would do as well, because we're both going after the same trail. So they've got our little green dotted trail going off to the right because we can't come within 15 meters. We can't go to the left and straight over the bridge because you can't make a setback. Well, neither can a train. And this is the worst one. This is the most insulting response of them all. Oh yeah, sorry, this is the Misha with the devil on her shoulder now, just so you know. Transportation says we can travel 7 kilometers on street with no bike lanes to the Dawn Trail to connect with the Meadowway Trail. Gee, thanks. Wow. You know, and here's a visual of that. So the light blue line is the proposed West Scarborough Rail Trail. The red dot is where the East Dawn Trail is connecting, and they spent millions of dollars on a bridge and a tunnel to make that connection. Hey, just right over there. Like right. Okay, and look at this blue line. How many tens of thousands of people will gain access to the Meadowway through our trail? Okay, so this is what they say in their final response. This is really what it's about. The TTC wants the bridge. So we can't have the WSRT because of the reservation of the unused bridge span for TTC expansion, precluding the option envisaged in the secondary plan, so they're acknowledging that at least, for an elevated crossing over St. Clair, due to challenges with design approvals, exemptions, and property acquisitions, which I just debunked. Transportation Services did not recommend moving forward with the project at this time. So our view is, City Transportation and TTC make recommendations and requests. City Council makes decisions. The plans to use the GECO Bridge and rail lands for the WSRT go back 50 years. They've been consistently asserted by City Council going back to 2005, city planners, and the Warden Woods secondary plan. All the challenges given by City Transportation are unfounded and groundless, and City Transportation gives no consideration in this report to the benefits of the WSRT, despite recreational trails being part of their responsibility. And this was from one of the slides I show you later. I didn't point it out at the time, but in that feasibility report, the City of Toronto Transportation Feasibility Report regarding the WSRT, in their own words, without the bridge, a direct connection between the lands north and south of St. Clair, as recommended by the Warden Woods Community Secondary Plan, is not feasible. On this point, we agree. The WSRT does not happen without the bridge. Even City Transportation knows the trail does not happen without it. In our view, the pocket track is a minor operational issue with multiple alternative options. The WSRT is part of an off-street active transportation and a ribbon of recreational green space legacy project that connects the entire city of Toronto. So the TTC rationale, and they have not been forthcoming at all. It's pulling teeth to get anything out of them, even of what their plans are. And so this is in general what I've been able to glean by talking to them. The TTC believes the GECO rail bridge and bed should be used for their original intended purpose, even though they have been abandoned for over 50 years and their rail use supersedes the warden's secondary plan. This reminds me of beavers. I don't know if you know about beavers, but if beavers hear running water, they want to build a dam. If TTC employees and staff see a rail line, whether it's old or new, they want to put a train on it. They haven't done anything with it for 50 years. I even question the pocket track thing. That's my own personal opinion. But they just want to do it. That doesn't mean they should, because that's in their DNA. So here's the rationale from what I've been able to glean. Metrolinx did not build in overnight train parking as requested by the TTC at the new stations east of Kennedy Station. Second, Metrolinx is taking out the train parking or the pocket track at Kennedy Station. TTC feels they need the Warden Station pocket track to get trains maintained overnight and onto the track at service start in the morning. TTC claims it will get trains downtown 15 minutes earlier at service start in the morning rather than coming from the end of the line. Through the party's motion, the TTC has been directed to find an accommodation for the WSRT, which is believed to be a new bridge for the WSRT. So this is not my problem, right? Really? But I'm willing to help the TTC out a little bit if we can to find some alternatives. We've heard clearly from the city, WSRT doesn't happen without the bridge, right? There's other ways to solve a two-train parking problem, I think. Which they think they own or have reserved. So here's some options. Don't build a pocket track at Warden Station. Build a pocket track at another station or somewhere else. Or build the pocket track at Warden Station without using the GECO bridge. And I'm a lay person. I'm not an expert, but here's what I threw together with my limited knowledge of trains and transportation and how to make a nice photograph. So the two red lines and the two orange lines, all those lines are trains, about to scale, 135 meters long. So the only places they can park them are where the orange ones are, along the actual trail, the old rail trail that goes right behind Santa Monica, or on the track. And I am guessing that's where they want to park them, the red ones, which neither of these options is acceptable for the WSRT. It will cancel it. And they're either going to do the switching on where the left train is, closer, before it goes in the tunnel. So that's where they want to park them. And that's why they don't want to give us the trail. They want to use the bridge to park those two trains. So I'm saying, well, how about this? And so the two green lines, there's room there, you'll see in pictures in a moment. And to the right of those two green lines, which represent two subway trains, and the building is as long as those trains, because the trains pull in, that's the platform building, just below the green line. So that's about the right size for the trains. And there's already track switching south of the building, and that they could connect to and still have their train parking at Warden if they really need it. This is the space from looking south-north towards the bridge. So it looks like there's room for trains there to me. Again, not an expert. There's from the same perspective. There's all this area here, and to the left are the switching tracks that already exist there. And that's more switching tracks. So, in the end, other trails have proper flat routes. Millions have been spent on tunnels and bridges and routes in other areas of the city. There's no major infrastructure required for the WSRT other than the paved path and some grading. The WSRT would give access to the Don Valley Trail to the south, Meadoway to the north, connect to the rest of Toronto. It's clear to me and city transportation that without the bridge, there's no WSRT and no broader connections. We'll lose those. And as far as a compromise situation, a new parallel bridge is not viable. And that's what I believe they're leaning towards. And, oh, here, you know, Parthy told us to make a design, an alternative plan. Oh, here's this bridge. What, that goes into the middle of a ravine in St. Clair? And then where does it go? Like, oh, and by the way, no one will ever fund it, so it'll never happen. So that's a red herring, and it's not going to work. It's not viable. It's not affordable, in my opinion. So we must weigh what use of the historic Chico Bridge best serves the needs of the community and the city of Toronto. So we're going to weigh it. Let's put them on the scales now. Do you want 2 empty subway trains parked on the historic Chico Bridge and Trail and rail bed that will look like this? Okay, except one more. Or do you want an off-street active transportation and recreational, or ribbon of recreational green space connecting the entire city with people on it, right? Yeah, and do you want this? Do you want this? Right? This is the hydro corridor, just moving past the rail lines. Do you want this? Same thing, walking towards Birchmount. Do you want this? Happy people. This is Scarborough right here. Look at the faces, look at the people, look how they're dressed. This is Scarborough at the pedestrian bridge where we're meeting the Meadoway here. Or do you want this? And if you look back in the picture, the guy waving with the orange hat, Parthy Canada! Uninvited guest. This is what we want on the trail. We don't want 2 empty trains. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry for saying that. So let's make it a reality. The West Scarborough Rail Trail. There it is, and that's me done. So while our next speaker, Parthy, is speaking, we're going to work on connecting with Armin. And Councillor Canada served as Toronto District School Board trustee for 2 terms, from 2014 to 2022. He was selected Scarborough Southwest City Council seat in a 2023 by-election. Parthy grew up in Scarborough and now resides in the ward. He's been a champion of the WSRT. He helped our school out personally on 4 or 5 occasions while he was Toronto District School Board trustee, and he's been very active in helping the WSRT and other issues our ward has had. So please welcome Parthy Canada.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and I want to, echo what folks have shared about Misha and the team. Let's give it up for them. Let's give it up for everyone who made it possible. Thank you, guys. And it takes, energy like Misha's to make things happen, to move the dial, especially at City Hall, where there are a lot of priorities, a lot of folks knocking on the door, pushing their cause, pushing their interest. And the sad reality is power is concentrated in such few hands, whether it's the mayor, certain staffers in the mayor's office, certain committee chairs, and to me, without getting into a governance geek out, is not good for a city as diverse as Toronto. And just reflecting on some of the earlier, so you need that energy. You need this energy. I'm very happy this presentation was given by Misha with that energy that I hope seeps into all of us and continues going forward, because it's a critical year. But to the point, I was reflecting on Al, right? His comments, and how when the original planning was done, you had Scarborough councillors and the mayor, perhaps with foresight, being wary of folks coming in, as a metaphor, because that's the story of amalgamation, right? I think there's some folks here long in the tooth to remember what amalgamation did. And it was actually last week we were hosting members of the Scarborough Sharks, which is the only women's hockey organization in Scarborough. And they were telling me with candid detail the differences between the hockey arenas in Etobicoke, North York, and in Scarborough. And a number of barometers, we see the lack of investment. And this is not a reflection of the current administration. This is historic, 27 years worth of under and lack of investment, whether it's recreation arenas, whether it's parks, whether it's in the amenities that should follow with density. It's cultural reality that's both our own fault, the folks we put into council and how they trade off, without naming names, personal interest for Scarborough or their ward's interest, versus also whoever's in power at City Hall and the decisions and the priorities they make. And it's something I tell particularly young people when I speak, that it's not a left-right issue that we have in Toronto. It's a geographic lens about who gets what. And it's very clear to me, whether it's transit, whether it's amenities, infrastructure, the fact that for 50 years we haven't had a playground, a splash pad, a boardwalk even, to take differently abled folks or those with walkers, families with wagons, to the shoreline in Bluffers Park, is really appalling. I saw our chief planner celebrate the winter stations at Woodbridge, at Woodbine, Ashbridges Bay. It's like, why not in Scarborough, right? So folks know I moved the motion to create a Bluffers Park action plan, right? So we've got, and that's tribute to the Scarborough leaders at the time in 1976, to have the vision to transform what was a garbage dump into this iconic park, right? That's a credible transformation. Garbage dump, like green space to park, great, but garbage dump to think, it's iconic. And in fact, you compare how Etobicoke used their pristine waterfront space, and a lot of it went to private ownership, versus Scarborough through the Guild, Sylvan Park, Hoodia Park, Bluffers, the trail at the end of Construction Hill by Rosetta McLean Gardens, the history of folks like Rosetta McLean Gardens, the Harrison properties given by private owners is remarkable. Such was the culture. And hence why I start my remarks by reflecting that culture needs to change. That it's not about left or right partisanship, it's about creating a Scarborough mandate, a Scarborough scope, and a Scarborough political demand, particularly in this year. Thank you. So, Councillor Matlow, who's a friend of mine on council, I don't have too many of those, but he is one. But he's outlined exactly how it operates, right? Sometimes I share that it's more of a jungle. City Hall's a jungle, you eat what you can kill, right? And it's the reality of how power is dispersed, how decisions are made, and where money is allocated. And this is where I feel that presentation by Misha and the energy is so relevant to how we unfold the next few months is imperative. We see inconsistency all the time. We see it in development applications, we see it in a host of things. The images showing the 2-meter setback at the hydro pole, the different land use with the cars next to it, all negate some of the arguments we're hearing. We've seen council spend, I forget the number, it's in the tens of millions on the West Toronto rail path. I think it's 70, it's in the tens of millions. Remarkable. That's a reflection of political will. You eat what you can kill. If there's a will, there's a way. And this is why it's insistent upon all of us. I've got a role to play as council, of course, and met the mark despite the photos. But to move and to have it on the agenda. But ultimately what this comes down to is 2 strategic pathways. One is the political demands being marshaled by many important voices here in this room and elsewhere that essentially asks mayoralty candidates and council candidates for that matter, but really the power now is concentrated. Whether a mayor says they use strong mayor powers or not, the practice is different. It is concentrated, and there's an argument you can be more efficient, but voices are lost out. So we need to put this on the agenda. Where and what have you done to advance this? Because Misha clearly outlaid the arguments. It's about investment, it's about priority, and it's about policy. So I want to leave my comments on that because there's tremendous potential, energy in this room. Sorry, do you have a question?
I do, but I'll let you finish.
Okay. There's tremendous potential, energy, and commitment to make this feasible and winnable come October. But it's going to take organization to push, lobby, and to achieve not just commitments, but also action items. We see the report that's going to be coming back. We know the report's going to be coming back, but we need to also simultaneously build and further our allyship. It was important to me to ask Councillor Myers to second the motion. He is the chair of the TDC. Councillor Matlow is a vocal member of the TDC, commissioner on the TDC board. So it's important that the next few months we get it right and fulfill our agenda.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So thanks for your patience. We'll deal with some questions. In fact, it's just, we're technically supposed to be out here at 4. My bad on not keeping, we've started pretty good, but then we got a little bit behind. But let me do my conclusion, and then we can have some people work on the mural before they go. So I'd just like to finish by saying we invite you all to support the West Scarborough Rail Trail any way you can. Sign the petition, write your councillor, the mayor, attend our events, or volunteer. We're looking for volunteers with transit, transportation, planning expertise, social media, doing better slide presentations than I did with my limited skills. Thank you. Organizers, general volunteers. Join our team by signing up at the information table at the back with Catherine, and make sure you have a look at the mural and offer some ideas. I'd like to thank everyone for attending, especially our councillor, who again has been a champion of this project. Our great volunteer group of Kirsten, Gerard, Catherine, Vida, Tahira, Warda, and Catherine, and Kirsten and Gerard's son, whose name I didn't get. James Doyle. And if you can check out James Doyle Report.
Yeah, on Facebook, it's the James Doyle Report, and we are simply recording as much as possible of groups like yourselves to give you guys a voice, because you notice that CBC or City TV was not here, and they won't be. But just want to say one thing, we can. I have experienced it. When enough people get together and all at the same time call up the councillor's office repeatedly, like as if you were selling duck clean, and you keep at it, they will go, oh my God, okay, this is a greasy wheel, let's take care of this. What Misha's just brought up is 2 rail cars. It is obviously that they just want the power, but we want something for the people.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, so that officially concludes things. Partha, you want to come up and take a couple of questions? Do you have a minute? And so we can just do some questions. If somebody want to filter over to the mural, Charrette, great. But go ahead. I'll let you.
So Councillor Canville, in the last minute you mentioned that your co-author of that motion, Councillor Jamal Myers, is the chair of the TDC board, and Josh Matlow is on the board. Can you speak to what they are doing in their capacity on the TTC board to advance this? Because it seems like kind of weak sauce to advance the motion on one hand and then just kind of like wring your hands and say, oh, well, you know, I can't do anything.
Yeah, it's a very good question, and I'll do my best. to answer it in some.
Yeah, I know it's
substantive-
unfair to like
Yeah.
ask you
Yeah.
to answer on their
Yeah,
behalf,
of
like
course.
everyone here and
Yeah.
Josh left.
No, and I think it's the reality of having a dual strategy, right? One that is strong, to Misha's point, that is fervent in our lobbying and demand for this to be created, right? I think the arguments are very clear. It's not cost intensive. There is precedent. We're severely lacking in connected rail trail. This has been on the books for 50 years. On the other hand, we recognize that they have a lot on their plates, right? And, you know, line 5, line 6 are big in discussion, and power is not as balanced, meaning staff have a lot of sway, have a lot of power. And this is one of the untold, unspoken realities of governance and government in Toronto, at least in my experience, both at school board and city hall, is that senior staff have a ton of power. And when you're in a position of chairing a committee or a board, you pick your battles, right? You pick the choices where you invest capital, right? And this is where I think both working with them, I do see them as allies to our cause, despite the legitimacy of your question, and how we also implore the mayor's office to make this a priority. And I do want to underline how important Scarborough is for anyone who wants to run this city, right? If you look at mayoral results from 98 to 03 to 2010, 14, and then 23. Those are all the significant elections where power changed. Scarborough always was the bellwether, the predicting who won, right? I say this because I said this at my New Year's levy for those of you who were there, is Scarborough will, like we did in 2023, decide who wins it, right? So we need to use that to our leverage and not harbor any personal connections and affiliations, etc., and place our geographic agenda before our perhaps partisan agenda. Does that kind of address your question?
Not really.
I can't speak on their behalf. What I'm trying to say is we're working with them, but we can't go completely solo, right? We need their allyship. And the fact Josh came here was, I think, very important. The fact Jamal seconded my motion was important. These are signals. I think we need another signal from the mayor's office.
Okay.
Let's go to this young lady.
Thank you. Great. Okay, I had a comment and question. So the one is I think this sounds like a great idea. As a cycle commuter and a parent and a recreational rider and walker, it's really important that we also maintain focus on real bike connections. Like, I don't want to take energy away from the Danforth that we just got. We just got
Kingston.
on Kingston Road. Okay, but the Danforth section, the missing link of the commuter bike part. Like, I just don't want to lose that in this, and then we're talking about trade-offs and whatever your city hall games are. Like, stranded infrastructure is something we don't want. Okay, so that's one. That is, we already kind of have stranded infrastructure with that. So I know we don't always agree on these things, but I just want to raise that. I think it's really important. Second one is, what about the alternative to the bridge? Like, is it so, like, what's the cross you die on? Could you not have a section of walking across the street with your bike? Walking across St. Clair
to the Ruby,
just going north
to the
south?
southwest.
Yeah, like, how terrible is that? I just don't, and I feel like that wasn't really addressed, and that's my major question.
Right. Well, that's kind of getting in. That's kind of getting into the details of weeds, which today wasn't intended to. But what I'll say is what I said in the slide presentation was the city transportation has already determined it's not really feasible, and we're trying to connect these gaps on the loop trail. We're trying to connect other gaps that we don't have to go through residential streets or on major streets, because this is a recreational trail, right? A recreational and a transportation trail. But so just jumping back to your first thing, I think both are important and both can happen. The on-street separated bike lanes and the recreational trails. I don't think we have to compete for the dollars. I think we should all get them.
Well, let's just
Here.
make sure.
Here. Well, okay, well, it depends what your okay, if there's one or the other, then we vote at council or whatever, right? But we would like both to happen. So that's my answer to that. And I believe both can. And then also, to the other point, City Transportation says it's not feasible. They've been tasked by Parthy's motion to come up with some design things by the first quarter. That's not happening because I talked to them already. It's coming June or July, maybe the end of the year. Their design and a design for something else. Very briefly, if we do a parallel bridge, there's nowhere for it to go because it's a very narrow rail track embankment on 100 meters or 200 meters or so. And otherwise, we'd have to go down to Santa Monica, cross Santa Monica, along some sidewalk. And they've mapped that out in the feasibility thing to some degree, which I could send you if you want to send me your email after, and you can have a look at their plans. And then go through St. Clair Ravine Park, through a neighborhood, and somehow work your way back up to Birchmount. But we're trying to avoid that, right? All the other sections, we're trying to get rid of these awkward connections, right? So that's on that point. Sorry, right there?
I would like to ask, after all this time, when Crystal Freeland was last here championing new streetcars, et cetera, during that time, hasn't anybody been able to, I'd like to use the term, pick the brain of the federal government when it comes to the gray area of what's like federal and what's abutting and what's this and what's that? I mean, like over the last 2.5 years, for all the important people that have come to Toronto, for one way or another, okay, to showcase whatever investment dollars, nobody was able to actually pull somebody important aside where they could speak on the federal government's behalf, and then obviously if they didn't have, okay, an answer at that point, where, you know what, let my people be in touch with you. So my question is, has anybody approached the federal government from the city's purview just to make sure and bring into light exactly where the federal government stands?
On this particular issue?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I tried for months to get a meeting with Bill Blair, yeah.
You are a private citizen.
Yeah.
That's the city council.
Yeah.
And I think he's been there, okay, from the time that he won that special by-election, where Crystal Freeland came into town, has some streetcars. Did anybody actually approach the federal government? Listen, we got a sticky authority issue or what have you, and we need clarity. And likewise with the federal, with the provincial government. That's my question.
Yeah, I know the team behind the WSRT has been requesting those meetings. They may not have a direct, well, they do through the CN rail. There, and I hope whoever is elected and whenever the federal by-election is called will echo those supports and be more hands-on. We definitely can benefit from having more of our elected representatives, batting for this. Yeah.
But, okay, so I don't mean with intentionality to throw a hot potato, okay, but we'll throw a hot potato. Because of the fact, if I heard this presentation correctly, that certain methods or chatter or inroads might have been realized, especially with a feasibility study or what have you, dating back, not long after, okay, former Deputy Prime Minister Freeland's visit here. So it's an echo chamber of all the high profiles, okay, once the cameras are off and the microphones are out, where these conversations could have taken place. So, not to disrespect any potential, candidate of any political party in the future that might want to see federally for the city or just local. All I'm saying is that little question could have been asked since 2023.
We're doing it now. And we have made overtures. We had Dolly here. Any other candidates are welcome to connect with us. And the councillor knows that we do need to connect with the federal representative to get the questions about that 500 meters CN line west of, can we continue this right after? Yeah, now, and then we'll just kind of conclude the meeting, because I know the council needs to move on.
One quick, because it was an important question, the lady,
they
left, but, because it's an important one. You know, why don't we just settle for the St. Clair walkthrough? And I don't think we should look at settling. We expect and deserve best in class. So I just wanted to clarify that. Yeah. What we want is best in class. It's existing. It hasn't been used in 50 years. All of a sudden, why now, right? So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, volunteers.